We created the world of Water Me and You 10 times over, and it was almost our downfall. In this devlog, we want to share the struggle of building a world players can truly call home, where the idea came from, why it nearly broke us, and how we ultimately found the version that finally clicked. For those of you that are new here, our game Water Me and You is a genre-blending cozy co-op adventure that mixes exciting and dynamic gameplay elements from games like It Takes Two with the cozy and relaxing aspects of games like Animal Crossing. To explain why world building was so difficult, I first have to take you way back to the beginning. When we first started making Water Me and You, we knew we were going for this kinda post-apocalyptic cozy vibe. The story was set a couple hundred years after humanity's demise, but even though people were long gone, we wanted the world to still carry marks of their everyday lives. Old objects like coffee mugs, boxes, matches, plastic, and tools became the backbone of the woodling civilization. Their houses, bridges, and platforms were all built from repurposed human relics. Essentially, their entire world was made from the leftovers of humanity. An important thing to note is that at this point, we were still building Water Me and You as a linear adventure. You and your co-op partner were constantly moving through the game and progressing the story just as you'd see in games like A Way Out or Sackboy: A Big Adventure. But as you may already know, our game is very different now. There were a few reasons for this shift, but the biggest one was our community. When we started posting our game on TikTok, Water Me and You was, as I said, a fairly straightforward co-op experience. But very quickly, something unexpected happened. People fell in love with the aesthetic of the world we were building. The colors, the tiny woodlings, our characters, it all resonated far beyond what we anticipated. And the more we posted, the more our TikTok blew up, and the bigger the wave of excited comments from people asking for more. More cozy, more freedom, more ways to simply exist in the world rather than just move through it. At first, this was surprising. We hadn't planned for Water Me and You to be anything other than a linear co-op experience. But the more we listened, the clearer it became. If we were building this game for our players, why not actually let them shape it? This pushed us to rethink what the game could be, and ultimately to embrace an entirely new genre layer that would change everything. Of course, this edition made development much more complicated.
Nice.
It completely turned our world building upside down. We had to deepen it further and rethink how we communicated everything to players, especially now that the linear structure was gone.
Oh, okay.
Looking back, I don't think we fully grasped how big this change really was, or how difficult it would make our development process, but nonetheless, back to the drawing board we went. The first big question we had to answer was, if we're now giving players the freedom to explore and play how they want, what is our world? Or more precisely, where is it? So we came up with a super simple answer. We will make the village. So easy, right? Yeah, we thought so too. From now on, I'll be using the village as the term that refers to the world of Water Me and You, and then later on, the villages, but we'll get to that.
What?
Anyways, now that we had the village concept, we had to approach designing it from two angles: functionality and environment. These two are tightly intertwined, and here's why. Like I said, in the beginning, we leaned heavily into the idea of a tiny civilization living within humanity's remains. But at some point, we realized something important. This wasn't just defining our aesthetic. In a way, it was also limiting us. We were so focused on figuring out how to incorporate human objects that we forgot to think about how to deepen the woodling civilization itself. Yes, they could use rakes, but what would their rakes be made of, and how would they use them? If their home wasn't a teacup or a coffee mug, what would it naturally be? We wanted the woodlings to have their own logic, lifestyle, and culture, where human remnants were just additions, not the entire foundation. So let's tackle the functionality problem first. The village was supposed to signify and show player progress, but what that meant exactly, we had no idea. Early on, I'd say our biggest inspiration was something like the hub world you'd find in a Lego game. We wanted the village to be your little safe haven in which you'd store some rare collectibles. It would be the place from which you'd go on your adventures and have some NPC interactions that were perhaps of no real value to the game, but had the purpose of bringing the world to life a bit more. All in all, it was supposed to be something you'd call your own, a space you and your co-op partner could relax in. But the more time passed, the more we realized that it simply wasn't enough. For a while there, we tried doing something adjacent to what LEGO Fortnite did, and honestly, I'm just gonna skip over that entirely.
Okay.
But yeah, if we truly wanted this game to be as cozy as possible, we needed to give players more freedom, more activities, more ways to make the village feel personal. We were no longer just building a backdrop, we were creating a world with its own story. Or rather, stories. We decided there would be different types of woodlings, each with their own unique villages, all connected by a larger overarching narrative. Each village would have a specific thing it would teach you, but they'd all be connected. For example, in the first village, your primary goal is to learn farming, and the setting is, well, I'd say relatively neutral and allows for that. The second village is the canyon, and the focus there will be more on mining and gathering those types of materials, while in the third, your primary profession will be fishing, because you're in the swamp.
What are you doing in my swamp?
These are the only 3 we will be revealing right now, but there are more. And of course, you will also have your little house and a plot of land. But we want all these villages to feel like home. In each one, you'll help the villagers rebuild their important monuments and buildings, and of course, customize. Make the place your own. And this is where the environment problem comes back into play. As I mentioned earlier, we had been unintentionally boxing ourselves in by clinging too tightly to a single idea. Once we let go of that, and honestly, once we put logic entirely on a shelf for a moment, that's when things finally started moving forward. It was still difficult, but it was progress. We played around with the idea of placing the villages on magical islands in the clouds. We wouldn't be the first game to do it, and I mean, we're making a game about a walking and talking water droplet and some sort of sea-like creature, so we're already deep in fantasy territory. But anyway, this idea was simply too small. Even though you could technically put endless connected floating islands, something just wasn't clicking. Then we tried to put everything on giant tree stubs, but we ran into the same issue. We didn't know how to expand the space while also keeping it coherent, or how our players would maintain a sense of geography. So that idea was also scrapped. Finally, we said, okay, at the risk of this becoming too big, let's try doing a landscape and just see what happens. This is where game design jumps back in. We started by making a village as small as possible. Then, as we figured out how it worked from a gameplay perspective, we slowly started expanding it. And as everything I mentioned earlier, the activities, progression, customization became clearer, so did the shape of the village itself, or rather villages. While this was one of the biggest things that helped us in creating this little world, there were a lot of small things that also finally made it click. The foliage, the huge grass we decided to use as a sort of wall, the style of the woodlings, the houses, animals, and other critters, all of these seemingly small details finally made our world make sense. If we're being honest, this process took a massive toll on the team. It often felt like we weren't making progress at all, and at times it made us seriously question both ourselves and the game. There were countless ideas, concepts, and iterations we haven't even touched on here, and if we did, we'd probably be here for days. Looking back, I wouldn't say creating the world 10 times over was a complete failure. It definitely feels like a process we needed to go through to understand what our game truly wanted to be, and to get to a place where the world of Water Me and You stopped feeling like a puzzle we were trying to solve and started feeling like a place that actually exists. And now that the foundation is finally solid, we can't wait to share more of it with all of you. Thank you so much for being here, for supporting us, and for helping shape this journey. It genuinely means the world to us. If you liked this video, click the like button, subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next devlog, share it with somebody you'd like to play our game with, and of course, if you haven't yet, wishlist Water Me and You on Steam. We hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.